All right, so today we are not going to do a full install of the audio system. We're just going to get the subwoofers installed. So here I have a vented SCAR box. It's got 8-gauge connects, two 10-inch SCAR subwoofers. These subwoofers are 4-ohm dual voice coil subwoofers. They're wired in parallel. You can look that up on the internet to find out what that means. So, it means dual voice coil. There are 2 wire coils for each subwoofer. They are at 4 ohms. When you run them at parallel, that cuts it in half to 2 ohms. Ohms is resistance. Less resistance, more power. So, at 2 ohms, these parallel will be wired to this NVX 1200.1 mono subwoofer amp. In parallel, the 2 ohms runs at 1 ohm. This amp is a 1 ohm stable amplifier at 1200 watts RMS. These subwoofers are 500 watts RMS each, which means they're going to be getting 600 each, but I also do not plan to run these at maximum, so it should be more than fine as they are rated up to a peak of 800 watts. We're good. Next, the bass knob and the line to run it from the trunk to the front so I can adjust the amount of bass coming out. This is something that NVX provides. It lets you put in a 4-gauge power, and it goes into the size terminals that are on this amplifier, which are probably like, I don't know, 8-gauge. So it's built for that. Fosgate, power and ground from my last car that I took out, 4-gauge. Line out converter. This connects to the rear speaker wires of my doors. I don't have a lexicon, so there's no amp in my trunk. I actually have to tap the speakers in my rear doors. I have 4 speakers, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. So I tap the wires that go to the speakers in the doors. As you've seen in my previous video, I've already got access to those speakers. Then it converts it to an RCA. The RCA runs to the RCA input on this amp. Then, when I do my full install, the RCA output will run to the other amp. That's where the bass knob controller will plug into. One end there, the other end goes into this knob, which will be mounted by, like, probably by my knee or something on the console. These are all the adjustments that you can make. I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'll have to just kind of do that on the fly. The other side, fused. You've got your, what do we got here? I'm guessing probably one's power, ground, and the other one's probably like a remote turn on. And these are for the speakers. Now I know I said mono, meaning 1. These 2 speaker inputs, even though the amp says mono and there's 2 inputs, it still goes to 1 channel. A lot of the mono amplifiers do that just to make it easier. This right here actually was something I'd gotten when I thought I'd just be pulling my dash out and cutting the wires. I decided not to cut those wires. I decided to just tap the speaker wires in the doors that I can already access rather than trying to pull the AV unit at the center of the dash, and I didn't want to cut the factory harness. So this is a 9-wire. There are 9 wires in this one cable. I'm going to cut it open. 2 wires go to each speaker. 4 speakers, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, equals 8 wires. The 9th wire is the remote turn on wire, the thing that will activate this to turn on. Don't need it because this already has a remote turn on wire. So what does that mean? When this senses input from the speaker wires, it then sends the signal for the remote turn on to turn the amp on. I don't need to find some kind of an accessory or some other input from the car to make this thing turn on and off as it should. This will turn on and off based on it getting a signal from the speakers. Problem solved. That's everything. So, battery, ground in your trunk, subwoofer box in your trunk. Won't need a lot of wire then. I don't need to run from the front from the battery under the hood because it's in the trunk. 1 amp, tap the 2 rear speakers. Hopefully shouldn't take more than a couple hours. We'll see what happens. The next time I do my full audio install, it's going to be a lot more stuff going in there. But for now, this is just to get started. So, just a preview. If you have questions about any of this stuff from what I've said, look it up because I'm not going to go into it anymore.